Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. And on this day, this video takes place over a few days. We're in the garden and we're trying to get through a bunch of jobs. I have a bunch of them written on this post-it note, and we're just getting to as much as we can. So one of the first things we do is start fertilising the plants. So a lot of them have been in the ground now for a while, and I want to get them fertilised so that we can keep them growing nice and strong and get good fruits off them. So I just have some organic plant food here that I had left over from last year, and I've got my big gloves on. And this is I forget the amount now, 2-litre watering can, I'm not sure. But I checked the amount that goes into it, and then we're going to top it out with some water. So I think I do 5 of the capfuls, and then fill it up to the top with water. So I'm starting this video at the end of May, and we're looking at kind of the end of May, beginning of June period. So at this point I could safely plant out the tomatoes and cucumbers, but I was unsure when to do that, when it would be safest. So I don't do it immediately, but you'll see later in the video we get to. So initially I think my plan was to fertilise first, but then I figured, it would be easier to get the cucumbers out first, so then they get fertilised into place. So instead I went to where I'm going to plant the cucumbers. I have a bunch of lettuce, sugar snap peas, carrots in this small pot. Well, it's not a big pot. I don't know how big it is, about 1 metre wide planter. And I have 2 cucumber plants that I want to get into this. My cucumbers did not come up super successfully this year, but I still had a few of them that worked out. There are people mowing in the lawn in the background, so I apologise for that. But you'll hear them on off. But yeah, I did have a few. I had, I think, 3 successful cucumbers in the end, and now a bunch have come up since I put the pot in the greenhouse, so we might have more. We'll have to see. But I had 2 good sized ones to go into this pot, and I wanted to do one on each corner. They've been in there now for a while and they're doing super well. I'm trying a bit of a different method this year in mixing up my plants together in their pots. So this time we have like the peas, which should maybe help some of the other plants, and I've noticed that the lettuce has given the cucumbers good shade coverage, which they sometimes need, so they can kind of grow out of the pot but also in. So far it seems to be working well. So this is the fertilizer, and I'm just watering in those plants, and then I also use a hose to make sure that none of it kind of sits on their leaves. I'm not sure if that's bad for the plants or not, but I figure it's better safe than sorry. The next thing we get around to is potting up the other cucumber plant so that it can go outside. So this already had soil in from last year, so I think I topped it up with a little bit of compost, and I'm also going to mix in some chicken manure pellets into the pot, just so it has a bit more nutrients. This is a slow release fertilizer, so it will give nutrients to the plants as they grow, and I can still top up with the other liquid feed fertilizer if needed, or more chicken manure pellets. This is my first year using them, but I am noticing that they are really helping the garden, which is exciting, and I think it should produce better plants. So this is the other cucumber plant I had, and on this day the weather was perfect. It was overcast, it wasn't too hot, I could wear my jumper and my leggings and my big gloves and not feel too hot, but at the same time I wasn't chilly, because I can get chilly quite easily. So I was super grateful for that. So as you can see, the rest of the cucumbers in that pack that I planted didn't come up in those pots. What I did is I just placed it on the shelf in the greenhouse and thought, if they come up, they come up. And a few have now, so actually I have had more cucumber plants, but they obviously came up late, so I don't know if they'll turn into anything yet. I kind of need to assess that situation really, but it's still good that more came up in the end. The pair of gloves I'm wearing is a new pair of gloves, and I love them. My boyfriend got them for me for my birthday, and they're great. They protect my arms. I have eczema on my arms, so if I have no long sleeves on now, this can help. And they're nice and thick. You can grab like a thorn, and it won't do any harm to them. They're not super dexterous, so sometimes I do take them off or I switch into my other gloves. But yeah, they've been super handy so far. So I do top that off with a little bit of the fertilizer water as well. Again, wash it off the leaves with the hose. It's overcast, so it doesn't really matter that I'm watering the leaves. And then I'll place that where it's going to grow. After that, I do decide to repot. I have a couple of tomatoes here. I think I have a couple of tomatillos in there that need repotting, so I go on a bit of a repotting spree, trying to get everything up potted or into where they need to be. I've tried to grow tomatillos here in the UK a few times, pretty unsuccessfully. I've had the plants grow and I've had like 1 or 2 tomatillos, but not many. But I keep trying again each year, and this year it's no different. I only have 2 plants this year that came up, but I don't know. I feel determined this year to try and make it work, so we will see. My tags are old and they break easily, so that's what happened there. The next thing I decide to do is weed the beds a little bit before I fertilise them. It's a lot harder for me to weed the other bed because I planted a bunch of seeds a couple weeks before, and a lot of the seedlings are coming up and I can't tell the difference between some of the weeds and some of the seedlings. So the other bed I don't weed nearly as well because I don't want to rip up any of the plants that I planted. You can see I'm being super gentle. I do then add some fertilizer to this bed and water it down. Over there I have lettuce and coriander, spring onions, and later on we plant some tomatoes in this bed as well. And I do keep reseeding lettuce, but I think some birds or something keep eating it. I do the same for this bed, but it only has seeds in really at the moment. Where those sticks are, if you can see them, the grass is super long, but if you can see where the sticks are, that's where I've planted lines of seeds. And that's in a previous video if you did want to check that out. I have to refill and run out. I give it a pretty thorough soaking of the fertilizer to encourage more growth. And then I also give some to my potatoes that are in this pot. Here I'm just weeding this bed, and then I do plant some basil down the other side, and I turn it over the soil as well and add some more fresh compost. You can see the state of the soil here. We live in a very clayey area. And then I clean out the greenhouse. So our soil's pretty solid usually, but you can see how much it's broken up from all the gardening and fertilizing and stuff. So here's what it looks like. of beans planted on the left side. I picked out some tomatoes to give away.
I'll try that one more. Maybe this one.
So those I gift, and then the rest I tried to get planted out. Tigerella, garden pearl. So I have 3 different varieties along the front, and then I believe the rest are in rows. Obviously that's not a cucumber. So that's a San Marzano. That is a Tumbling Tom, I believe, which is like a cherry tomato. Tomanda, Roma, and cherry tomatoes. So I have 3 in each row of those. Usually I do 4, but I have other things planted on the sides this year. And then I have 3 more plants over here. Tigerella again, they're like stripy ones. There's a garden pearl, which is like yellow. And I didn't read that, but if you read it, you'll know. And I planted them into the night, staking them up. And I managed to get it done before it was completely dark. And then the next day, we get to plant out the pumpkins. And these are some beans. I'm planting beans in some of the pumpkin pots this year to see if it helps them grow. Not many of my pumpkins came up, but enough did. And I planted some straight into pots outside, so. I like to plant my pumpkins here every year because they trellis down the tire planters and they look super pretty. And they also get a lot of sunlight there. Each plant could be a different variety. I just planted an assortment of seeds, so I'm not sure what variety they are. I didn't label them. So it'll be a surprise when they come up. They also can cross-pollinate, and I've saved these seeds myself, so I really have no idea what's going to come up. You can't tell, but it was a much sunnier and warmer day on this day. I think it was about, I want to say it was about 30 degrees Celsius on this day. I don't have a clue what that is in Fahrenheit. So it was a nice day to get out in the garden. But it was a bit breezy. So I'm not planting beans into all of them, but I am planting beans into the 2 at the back. Because those ones are much bigger pots. I don't think there would be enough space in the other pots for a bean plant and a pumpkin plant. Pumpkins aren't a fan, and just squash in general have been repotted. So I'm trying to get them straight into their final pots so that they don't need to be repotted again. these pots already had soil in from the previous year, but I'm topping them up with some, I think we use some of our homemade, or like I don't know how you'd say a homemade compost. I don't know how you would explain that. But I'm also topping it up with some of the shop stuff, and I think there's some chicken manure pellets mixed through as well. So I'm just kind of mixing up everything. I'm leaning heavily into giving the plants enough nutrients this year, because I think in previous years I might have not done that. And pumpkins are heavy feeders, from what I've learned. I clearly don't know, because I don't normally feed them very much, but I think they are. I do try and pick the plants with the bigger leaves to go at the back, again because they're huge pots at the back, so I figured they may be bigger plants, but who knows. The plant pot on the front right already has a cucumber plant in it that we planted before, and the one behind that already has some spring onions in it, so we're only planting the 3 pots, the 2 at the back and the one on the left middle. And then the front left one, I plan to put some flowers in to encourage pollinators over to the pumpkins. I did grow a lavender plant, a singular one. I think I'll probably just buy some. I grew one from seed, but I think I will just buy some sort of flowers. I'd prefer a perennial flower, so I don't have to kind of plant new ones every year. I did have some daisies back there one time. Daisies are some of my favourite flowers. But I will probably head to the store and pick up some sort of perennial flower, probably lavender, because I'd like to use lavender in cakes and things. But I don't know, maybe I might get a different type of edible flower, I'm not sure. If you have any recommendations, let me know. And then I trellis up the 2 back pumpkins, because last time I had one grow all the way to the back bush and then up the bush. This is not enough trellising for them, but I think it'll actually look quite pretty if they do trellis up it a little bit, so that's just the idea. Also the beans need trellising too. I probably could have done much bigger trellising, but I don't know, I just thought this looked cute. I can switch it out. One of the bean varieties is a bush bean and one's a pole bean, so one of them won't really climb up the trellis, but the other one will. I think it's the one on the right is a pole and the one on the left is a bush. I don't actually eat a ton of beans, so it's, well, actually I do eat quite a lot. I don't know. I've planted a lot of beans this year, so we'll see if I actually use them. And then I'm also planting some pumpkins over this side. And beans too. These are quite small pots for pumpkins though, so I don't know how well they'll do. But it's worth a shot. I had them in these pots last year as well. Oh, this one I'm putting a bean in as well. I had them in these pots last year as well, the pumpkins, but I didn't feed them very well. I did get a singular pumpkin, or two I think, from these ones, so we'll see. Hopefully this year they'll do better. It's actually been raining non-stop here for the past like week, so I've barely been out there. So I'm not actually sure how well they're doing right now. I don't think it's raining right now, so maybe I'll head out there soon and find out. I have a couple left over, so I pop them into pots. One of them did get too hot though whilst I was repotting, so one of them I think did unfortunately not make it, but I think the other pumpkin plant did that I repotted into the small pot. They're both teeny tiny plants. I didn't really need them. I don't need them. I'll probably give the one that did survive away because I don't think I have anywhere to put it anyway. But I did try and save them. So here's everything finished. That's the tire planters and over here. And I hope you enjoyed the video. And here's some fruit that we already got from the garden. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!